Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live, talk radio without the static. Email your questions and comments to Lynn at pghcitypaper.com. And now your host, Lynn Cullen.
Hey, how you doing? It's October 13th. It's a Wednesday, and I've got my TV on, although the sound's off. I just watched 90-year-old William Shatner walk up, I think the equivalent of about a 10-story building. Did you know he's getting ready to get into Bezos's rocket? But not, it turns out there's not like an elevator that brings you up to the top of that rocket. You got to walk up stairs over and over. And I'm thinking, really, a 90-year-old walking up those stairs? I would have been a little exhausted. And I also have to tell you that the pictures of him in the car as they were heading to the site, he looks like he's having second thoughts. That's all I want to say. He looks like I don't know. Anyway, so sometime during the show, Captain Kirk is going where no 90-year-old has ever gone before. I think he's having second thoughts. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. Do you know have you ever heard, because I just heard, which is why I'm saying, do you know, that there's something actually called, and it exists, called no-mow grass? Yeah. I don't know. I think it must be one of those things for rich people. Some kind of grass that's been created that only like grows less than an inch in a season. Literally, you don't have to mow it. Is that possible? Sure, it's possible. Anything's possible. Somehow I think, oh, never mind. I'm sorry. My head is all over the place today. All over the place. Have a guest coming in later in the show to give us some relief. Perhaps. And then maybe not. I don't know. Because I don't have, as usual, anything that is, yes, wait, California is banning gas-powered leaf blowers. Yes! Well, they should ban all of it, all of those loud, unbelievably polluting things. I mean, they first of all, they deafen you, prevent you from enjoying the comforts of nature. They also release more air pollution than cars, I believe. Somewhere here, I think they had an actual number. But the pollution, air pollution, going on with those things, not to mention the noise pollution, is unbelievable, and it should be unlawful. Yeah, they say that leaf blowers and other equipment like it emitted more pollutants than passenger cars all of last year. Well, that's just insane. I don't get it. One of the things that I've got workers here, because I've mentioned there's work going on all over the place. I was worried you would hear it. Is the little bit of grass I had, I'm getting rid of. And they're building some hardscape that I'm not going to have to, deal with. Grass is absurd. It can be very lovely looking and welcoming, but the amount of insane labor that goes into maintaining it, not to mention poisons, not to mention pollution, is insane. I'm just telling you guys. I just wish everybody would stop. Okay. So, actually, there's a house near where I live, because when I'm walking the dog, I noted where the inhabitants thereof have gone natural. They have in their front yard. It looks like a wild native meadow. And we're not used to seeing that, but it's lovely. We're just not used to seeing it. And right next door to the wild meadow is a house with this pristine green lawn with nary a weed to be found. And what we can know, I mean, when you see a lawn like that they're using poison. And I'm thinking, I'm imagining like the little bubble over the heads of the people with the pristine green lawn when the neighbor went natural, and like just being appalled. Look at that. Anyway, it is all what we are accustomed to, what we know, what feels normal. And if you've traveled much in the western parts of the United States, where the drought is extraordinary, and municipalities have said you can't water grass. That is absolute nonsense. It's a waste of where you don't see lawns anymore. You do not see lawns. You see native. It's not as green. It's true, but it is more natural. What you see. Lawns are not natural. Especially, and where I've seen this is in the desert, in Palm Springs. Palm Springs, I assure you, grass is not native. And so all those pristine golf courses out there are like, there's a grotesqueness to what we do. I think, to natural environments. Insane. So we can play our games. All right, you can see what kind of a mood I'm in. I would never do what Shatner's doing. For one thing, don't they they have monitors on you, like your heart rate and stuff the whole time? I'd just be embarrassed. My heart rate, which is normally extraordinarily low, so that whenever someone takes my pulse, they always say, "Oh, wow, you're a marathon runner, huh?" Oh, no, I couldn't even walk one. But it's very, very low. So if I get up over 100, it's amazing. And I bet if I were being shot up into space, it'd be, wow. I can't even begin to imagine. So anyway, I guess those guys are about to enter that penis there. It looks exactly like very phallic. What should I talk about? I got a lot of stuff here, but I just sort of don't. There was one wonderful story in the local paper. And because I don't watch the local news, for all I know, it is being reported ad nauseum. And so me talking about it is unnecessary and redundant and overkill. However, it was new to me. And that's this little 3-legged dog, part Pomeranian and part, I don't know, Jack Russell. That's a smart little guy, tiny little thing. Don't know how it lost its leg, but it saved its owner's life. The owner had fallen into the Allegheny River and hit his head, I guess, going down, and was knocked unconscious and was down in the water, and no one saw it. Dog. That guy was underwater for a full 10 minutes. But long before that, this little three-legged creature jumped in to the river and started barking and barking as it swam around on above where its owner lay dying in the river. Barking and barking and barking. And of course, attracted attention, and luckily for everyone involved, one of the first people happened to be a nurse who was on her boat in this marina. And between her and others on the scene, the guy was gotten out. CPR was done. It took the paramedics quite some time to get there because it's apparently a sort of remote, out of the way place to get to. And I'm looking at a picture of that guy who, if that dog hadn't done what it did, would be long dead. I'm looking at a picture of him and the dog and the nurse. And that's a nice story. That's a nice story. All right, I need cheering up. I gotta go. Obits always cheers me up. I don't know about you guys. Ruthie Thompson. I know, I never heard of her either. But Ruthie Thompson is dead. Although you shouldn't mourn. She got a longer run than 99.999999% of humans on this earth. She died at the age of 111. Jeez. God. Wow. And you know what she did long ago when she was of normal age? She worked for Walt Disney. And she worked on all the classic animated movies. Worked on Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, on Pinocchio and Fantasia and Dumbo and everything that studio was putting out at the very beginnings. And Snow White was the first animated feature that Disney Studios put out. That was 1937, and that's when she began her career there. So she had something to do with that. And then she worked all the way through to 1977. And you wonder, how do people get it? She wasn't an animator. You know why? Because women weren't allowed. Big shock. But how do people, you often wonder, how do they end up doing what they do? Well, in her case, it was simply proximity. It was who a neighbor was. It was what was happening in a building that was near her school that she walked by every day. So she lived, when she was a little kid, she lived down the street from Walt Disney's uncle, Robert. And then when the Disney brothers, Walt and Roy, founded their first film studio, this is 1923, it was right there on Ruthie's route to school. So she walked by every day. And she could see this little girl that these guys in there were doing something pretty astonishing. So she'd look in the window all the time. She looked transfixed in the window all the time. And one day, Walt opens the door and says, "Why don't you just come inside and watch?" And she did. And she became a regular fixture there, just staring in disbelief. But then that was that. She went on. She graduated from high school. And she went on and got a job at a horse farm of some sort. And extraordinarily, she's working at this place with the horses in the San Fernando Valley. And one day, who walks in but Walt and Roy Disney? And damn if they didn't recognize her. "Ruthie," they said. They had come to the stable to learn how to ride a horse and play polo. Jeez. Because apparently that was what all the inn folk were doing, so they wanted to be with the inn folk. And so they're there trying to learn how to ride horses and play polo, and Walt eventually says to her, "Why don't you come and work for me?" And she said, "Oh, Mr. Disney, I can't draw worth a nickel." He said, "Doesn't matter. We'll send you off to night school and you can learn inking and painting," which is, we're not talking about animation now. We're not talking about digital animation. We're talking about this was all done on paper with a camera, with film, and with paint, hand painted. And that's what women were allowed to do. Paint. And in fact, in the obit, they quote this a paragraph of what Walt Disney Studios allowed women to do. And they gave this to women applying for jobs. "Oh, I'd love to be an animator," a young girl might say, and she'd go to Walt Disney Studios and say, I want to be an animator. And they'd say, "Well, here's what you can do, and here's what it says." And the women were given this booklet. Women do not do any of the creative work in connection with preparing the cartoons for the screen, as that work is performed entirely by men. It's flat out says it. And back in the day, that was accepted. That was, that's right. Women can't do creative work. Only men get to do it. And no one was ashamed of that. It wasn't like somebody was going to come and shut them down because they were discriminating. No, this is the way it was. And the Disney company went on to tell would-be female employees, the only work open to women consists of tracing the characters that men, of course, had already created on clear celluloid sheets with India ink and filling in the tracings on the reverse side with paint according to directions. And Ruthie Thompson always said it was like, paint by numbers. Women were flat out not allowed to do any of the creative work. Nonetheless, since women weren't asking for anything at that point, she was thrilled. And so she spent her life at that studio. She said, doesn't take a lot of brains to do what I did. You just follow the lines. But see, that shows you what they thought of women. Doesn't take a lot of brains. And so all those Disney feature-length cartoons, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of women spent coloring in every cell. It was only women. So she lived 111 years. Wow. No survivors. Never married. No survivors. You know, when you're 111, there's no survivors no matter what. If you had children, they're probably dead. God, 111. That's a rough thing. Who would want to? I mean, I don't say whether she was in good shape or not. Jesus. All right. I'm looking. Shatner's been stuffed into the top there. It looks like I'm sorry. Not that this is of any import. Actually, you know what? I was just thinking as I was saying that women weren't asking for much. It's about 7 minutes from liftoff. I've been trying to, I think I might have mentioned this, I've been trying to organize all my papers and stuff from my career because someone told me there's some archive might want it as, you know, as an example of one of the first women to get into a formerly, you know, women not allowed. I was the first woman to anchor a newscast in Madison, Wisconsin. I was one of the first to do talk radio in Pittsburgh. But as you know, talk radio is still overwhelmingly a male bastion. And so I just was of an age where breaking down those barriers came to me, not because I was by nature an aggressive feminist, but because I was of a certain age and I wanted to work. And so I applied. And it's right after things start opening up. So I actually, by 1975, I'm an anchor woman, the only one in Madison, Wisconsin. And I was doing just fine. And as I was going through my papers, I see that I kept, from 1976, a memo from, I can't even remember who these people would have been. And it talks about the transition to the new format. And what happened then, there was a new format because a new general manager came in. An idiot named Dwayne Shermer. And he was appalled that I was on the air. He was appalled. And in no uncertain terms said, no one takes a woman, the woman has no authority, no credibility. And this memo I saw talks about, it actually says something like, here's how we're going to do it. The anchor man will open as now, the top story, then cut to the co-anchor gal for one story. And she pitches back to the anchor, Ted. Well, that's not how it had been. He was going to reduce me. This was the transition where they were going to slowly get me off the air. And there was a meeting actually called of the entire staff, and I'll never forget it. But in case I did, I actually have here the notes I took immediately after that meeting in 1976. Because at that meeting, Dwayne Shermer, the new general manager, outlined to us what his feelings were, that women were not authoritative and were not credible. And there's no way he's going to have a woman as the face of the news. And here's how we're going to do it. And he talked about this sort of subservient role. And after it was over, I went and typed out things I wanted to remember that he said, because I spoke up at one point when he was talking about the anchor man and the gal. I said, could you, I don't know. And he said, what would you prefer I call it? And I said, well, how about dominant and subservient? That seems to be more accurate. And he, without blinking, said, all right. So the gal, he goes on to say, will read a second story. Hopefully it can be some woman's oriented story. And then I roll my eyes or something, and he says, if people are going to protest, we simply are not doing it at all. The gal will read the second story and then maybe the last story before the weather. And somebody says, well, is the gal a co-anchor? And he said, no, this is not a co-anchor. The gal is more of an assistant. The man will do the headlines. The man will say goodnight. The man will throw to the spot, except maybe the weather that the gal could do. Oh, well, I have news clippings because I went after him. And it became, they took me off the air, and it became a big to-do. And boy, they backpedaled fast. Dwayne Shermer backpedals fast, and I am reinstated. And there's a triumphant picture of me in a T-shirt that somebody had sent me that says, it takes balls to be an anchor man. So somehow reading about that 111-year-old woman being told by a guy that the gals can't do creative work or can't do this kind of thing, it made me think how it took so long. I mean, so long. So that's 1976. And obviously, since I lived it, I'm not feeling like that is a million years ago. And yet, so much needs to change. But a lot has. And I would not be yapping at you now if I hadn't fought that fight and other women hadn't fought fights. I went at him through the union that I belonged to and was in fact the steward of. And I had helped negotiate the last contract. So it was unclear to us whether this guy hated me because I was a woman or hated me because I was union. I suggest it was both, but mostly it was the woman thing. It was the woman thing. So, hang on. Oh, cool. I'm going to change the subject. Now, I am so sorry. I'm sitting here watching because that poor 90-year-old man is about to be shot into space, even for a second. But I would not want to be him in a million years. I suppose some of you would. I bet he's thinking, let me off. Let me off. I've decided I don't think I want to do this. I don't think I want to do it. I think he's almost about to be shot into space. All that said, oh, they put it on a hold? He gets to be nervous longer. Poor guy. Anyway, let's change the subject. By talking about me and my career, which has been a long one, you see how sort of old I am. And these current times often flummox me. I mean, I'm not alone, I'm sure, in looking at those magazines when you're checking out of the grocery store, the ones that, traffic in celebrities. And a ton of the celebrities I see smiling back at me are people I've never seen, people whose names I never heard. I don't know them. And I've mentioned before, it's starting to impact my my crossword puzzle solving. Because if you're not up on, current stuff, popular culture, you're out of it. And it probably happens to most of us because it's hard to keep up. At some point, frankly, you lose interest. You age out of popular culture. So all of this is to say that I was reading a piece in the Tribune Review maybe a week ago or so, and it introduced me to something, that wasn't totally alien to me, but I still had no idea. And it was wonderfully written, and I can tell that I have the same kind of mindset. I would react in exactly the way that the author reacts to this, which is, what the hell? Well, I'm not going to put words in her mouth. Lori False is the Tribune Review community engagement editor, and she wrote the piece. And Lori, are you there? And can you hear me okay?
I am. I can hear you just fine.
Oh, good. I don't even know where to start with this. I don't even know what you're talking about. You mentioned let me find it here. You said Lulu Row, Party Light, Paparazzi, Tastefully Simple, Pampered Chef. I don't know what any of those things are, and yet they have bedeviled you and millions of other women, apparently. So what are those?
There are just a few of them, too. There are so many multi-level marketing organizations out there that prey on, particularly on women who want to try and work from home so that they can take care of their kids and take care of their family, but still be bringing in money. And all it ends up doing is circulating in this perpetual, motion machine where you're trying to get your friends to join your organization and they're trying to get you to come to their party for their organization. And it's just like this horrible merry-go-round of guilt.
So in other words, let's just take one of these things, okay? You say LuLaRoe, the clothing company.
Is the one that's hidden. Yeah.
And you say it's the subject of Amazon's Lulu Rich series, which of course I haven't heard about. you are saying, so what happens? You're on Facebook. This is where this stuff plays out, right? You're on Facebook, and what? Yeah. Oh, okay. And so what happens? A friend sends you an invitation?
Yes. The big way, like these started with like the door-to-door sales back in the day, you know, like Avon. Avon was a direct selling company, but not a multi-level marketing company for a very long time. It is a multi-level marketing company now. But it used to be that you would go around and you would try to sell a product. But now multi-level marketing companies have taken advantage of social media, and it has become a situation where people prey on their friends. And it's not that the people are doing it, it's that they are encouraged by the organization to do it.
That's the way it works. Right. That's the way it works. I mean, you all have friends, and your friends are your potential consumers. Right.
Right. And the idea is that you sell a product to them. That's how they get around the idea that they're not a pyramid scheme, because they're selling a product, except the product is just a facade. What you're really selling is your friends, because it's the idea that if you can just get one friend to have a party, and then maybe you could get a friend to join the organization, and then they can try to get people to join the organization. And you know, it becomes like this horrible exponential thing.
Well, what is okay, so staying with this. So if you sign on with the LuLaRoe, does that mean you're trying to sell their clothes?
LuLaRoe is almost, like I said, it's singled out in this video on Amazon in particular, because it's kind of the most extreme version of it. Because while something else is just trying to get you to have parties and get them to sell stuff so that you can get more people under you and get them to do it, LuLaRoe made all of its dealers buy a minimum amount of product every month, and then get their people, bring people in and tell them they had to sell a minimum number of product a month, and then have them bring more in, you know, so that if everybody's buying $2,000 of leggings a month and just storing them in a closet, you know, actually there were people who like kicked their kids out of their rooms, you know, and had like their 3 kids living in one room, and got their husband's car out of the garage, and all of that space was devoted to these leggings that they couldn't really sell because nobody was interested in them. Oh, they weren't really popular. Leggings actually did have a following for a while, but not for very long, because they fell apart. They were not high quality, you know.
So they up front they give this corporation $2,000 to get all this stuff, which then they are supposed to, this is so sad, sell. But using friendship, which is understandable, they're not thinking of it that way. But every time you get an invite to so is a party an actual party or a virtual party?
Sometimes, but they're frequently actual parties. And, you know, some of the parties are actually even kind of fun. Like I am currently in this like guilt spiral with my sister had a party for Pampered Chefs, and I agreed to have a party for her, because if I did, then she got like a higher percentage discount on the stuff she was buying. So I fell into the trap, and I have agreed to have this party. I have not yet scheduled the party, and I'm hoping, you know, that I die before I have to have it.
Well, yeah, but you're obligated now. Wait, I mean,
I am obligated.
And there's family involved, so you gotta, But in order to have the party, then you have to potentially put other people to be obligated, then perhaps to you. I mean, Oh, this is awful.
When you have a Pampered Chef party can be fun because there's like a recipe component, you know, and there's like a guarantee of food. And I'll show up almost anywhere for a guarantee of food.
Yeah,
But with with some of the others, all you're doing is like looking at jewelry, that is laid out on somebody's table.
Yeah.
And over the, social media has made it really easy to have a virtual party, and especially over the last year, all of these things survived because of virtual parties. And it's just the thing about the virtual parties is they're so much worse because it's all of the guilt and none of the food.
Well, and as you say, you're good, you're funny, and then you're a good writer on top of it. So you say here in the piece, friends who would never reply to a Nigerian prince email or give Target gift card numbers to an alleged IRS agent on the phone have no problem with the structure of a company that is so obviously a pyramid scheme. As you say, the corporate headquarters should look like an Egyptian tomb. And you say that actually the FTC, the Federal Trade Commission, reports that 99% of people who participate in this kind of, it's called multi-level marketing business, lose. They lose.
Yep.
And sometimes big. Sometimes end up in bankruptcy. Sometimes ending up destroying their credit. They're only no one's going to. How is this legal then if the FTC says that 99% lose?
It's because of that loophole with they're selling a product.
Oh,
they are, in fact, selling a product. And that is what keeps it from being like a Ponzi scheme. Because a Ponzi scheme is just purely about a facade of something happening with absolutely no promise of any kind of payoff and no real thing behind anything that you're doing.
Right.
A multi-level marketing is that, if you like candles and want to join Party Light because, you like candles and your friends like candles, and you don't really have any big expectation of making money, then it might just be a fun party for you to have, and you move on with your life. They are, in fact, going to give you candles. And the Party Light candles are nice. I have a couple of them because I have been in this rodeo for quite a while. But that's what keeps it ostensibly legal. Because there is, in fact, a product. And the idea that the product that's really making the company money has nothing to do with leggings or candles or baking sheets or,
Rather than having your party that you're obligated to have, why don't you send your column out to all your friends and tell them to send it to their friends so that at least you guys are not going to be suckers?
What's really funny is that one of my friends who is well aware of what's going on, because she got suckered into it too. It was not her idea. She was fulfilling a guilt obligation at the same time. The same day that I put my column up, she sent me an invitation and she attached. She went into my into the website and took it, and she has it in the party so that she's like, I am not unaware of what this is. I know exactly what's going on. Do not anyone feel obligated. I am only doing this because I have to. So.
Oh, I can see this is so fraught. You can have an earnest friend trying to actually make some money, unwilling to believe that she's not going to be the one who's going to pull it off. I mean, women have been conditioned to this stuff, Avon calling, and I had Tupperware. I don't know how I escaped all this stuff. I did have a producer once who got into selling some kind of makeup. It wasn't Avon, but I ended up buying one thing, but never again. I mean, it is just, wow. Now, is it like, so is Avon like, what's
Like
the
you
one
said,
where women
Avon?
drive around in pink cars? What is that one? The pink.
That's Mary Kay.
Oh,
That's
so
Mary
is that
Kay. And
like
Mary
this?
Kay yeah, Mary Kay is a multi-level marketing as well. But like some of them, they have degrees. Some of the multi-level marketing things are not nearly as heinous as others. Like I said, LuLaRoe gets a lot of attention because it is among the most egregious that is out there. But you know, some of them, the products have a following because they're good products. My mother would like drive into the gates of hell for a Pampered Chef stoneware baking sheet. She really would. She loves it. She doesn't care that it's multi-level marketing, and she doesn't care that she's really being overcharged for the stoneware baking sheet because she likes the quality of it.
Yeah.
And like I said, if you went through my kitchen, you would find any number of Pampered Chef products because I like them. But then there's other things where that, you know, it's just such a racket. And it's a racket that deliberately preys on people who are trying to make a better life for themselves, which is what is so awful about it. You know,
exactly.
Who are trying? You've got like women who are trying to contribute to their families. You know, like they're not all impoverished. You know, some of them are just like this woman who is, you know, her kids have gone off to school and she's home and she doesn't have a work history because she's been at home for so long. So she can't get a regular job because she doesn't have, you know, that kind of background that's going to get it for her. So she falls prey to this. She thinks, I, you know, have been cooking for years. I can talk about cooking to my friends who also cook. I can sell this product. And so she does it. And it ends up not being what she thinks it's going to be. But what's really upsetting is the women who are really smart. I have a friend who actually, she worked for the state for a very long time. She worked for Penn State for a while. And now she's selling essential oils for one of these companies. And her entire life has become about it. She is one of the people who is being successful at it. But it's so upsetting because on some level, I know that she is aware that she is being successful at the expense of other people.
Wow. Well, that can't feel good. Can't feel good. She knows she's part of this sort of nefarious apparatus.
Smart. She's so smart. She can't be unaware of what is going on.
Wow. So this is weird because they do, and you say, so a lot of these, you know, you're saying you love good parties, and you say, but these aren't parties. They're more like hostage situations. And oh, geez. Well, yes, in fact, where you end up spending money you maybe don't want to spend. You end up agreeing to do something you don't want to do, right?
Yes.
You end up...
Yes. It's a hijacking.
Yeah. Wow. So you think you offended any of your friends by writing this?
No, because the ones like my friend who is selling the essential oil, she won't acknowledge that what she's doing falls into this category, so she's not offended by it. And the ones who are aware of what it is agree. You know, wow. if you have 20 people who are at one of these parties, you're kind of guaranteed that like 15 of them are aware of what they're doing and have just like taken a deep breath and gone into it because somebody came to one of theirs.
Oh, this all sounds so, isn't that weird? So you're all pretending that, so you're actually part of this sort of choreographed, it's phony. I mean, you're pretending to have a party.
Yes, and we're all complicit in it too. Yes.
Jeez, man. Well, I am so, first of all, thrilled that I'm either too old or just the kind of person nobody ever invites to anything, that I don't have to do this.
Hey,
because
if I end up having this pampered chef party, I am more than willing to invite Miss Spelling to come.
Yeah, well, I don't. Miss Spelling is, she's a crotchety character. I don't know if she'd want to come. But unbelievable. So there's still, this just keeps coming and coming and coming. What's paparazzi?
Paparazzi is jewelry. I have my cousin's wife is, she has fallen for multiple of these. She did LuLaRoe. She did this one that sells like bath bombs with jewelry that are inside that you only get after the bath bomb has like dissolved in your water. And then paparazzi was the last one that she did, and it is incredibly cheap jewelry, like the very cheapest dollar bargain jewelry that you agree is worth $10, and it's not. But
how much?
They sell it in like this, when they do the online ones, they do this kind of auction format where they're showing it to you like one piece at a time and getting somebody to agree. And really all you want to do is buy the first one that you possibly can so that you can get off of the terrible phone call.
It's so awful.
And it is worth awful. The $10 to get away from it. You just want to give. And, that's the thing. I would much rather go to a real party and pay $10 to come. Yeah. Let me just give you $10 and we'll hang out and have fun. And you'll get the money. I promise. I'll give you $10 to hang out with you. Just like, don't make me feel obligated to do this.
Yeah. It's fascinating. It's just fascinating how people figure out how to use and manipulate human psychology and friendship to separate well-meaning people from their money. It's just incredible. Well, I'm so happy that you wrote this, because you might have opened up a few eyes. You might have saved a few people and their money.
I hope so.
I hope so too. I really do. And don't anybody invite me to any of these stupid parties. Jeez. My God, the products sound like this paparazzi thing sounds ridiculous. I mean, unbelievable. All right. Hey, it was a pleasure talking to you, and thank you so much. And it's nice to see your work. Doing good stuff.
It was great talking to you. I have been, following you forever. So.
Yeah, I'm sure I was talking before how old I am. Yeah, right. I'm sure you could. Well, let's keep keeping on. There's no other direction but forward. So, Lori, thank you so much. I enjoyed this.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Oh, gosh, guys, please. It just, you think of it, just one individual being pulled into this crap, this bull. P.T. Barnum, man, he turns out to be a genius. Incredible. John McWhorter, who I've mentioned, by the way, Captain Kirk is up. He's in the rocket and it hasn't exploded or anything. So looks like so far so good. John McWhorter is a linguist, and he's extremely bright. I don't always even follow some of what he's saying, I admit. But he's also courageous in that he doesn't go with the flow. So he's just willing to see things clearly, to say what he thinks and feels, and lets the chips fall where they may. And in this day and age, when people capitulate to the mob so readily, it's heartening. But he's done a lot of writing on this, and it's about the fact that words, language is now under attack, that certain words are not to be uttered, that some words and phrases might give offense to somebody. And so a lot of people, don't even know what they're afraid to even talk. I've had more than one experience in which people will say, well, they preface their remarks by saying, well, I know I'm not supposed to say this, or I might get in trouble for saying this, or please don't be offended, but and then out comes a thought. A thought. Did he just land? He barely went up. I don't know. Never mind. I can't do two things at once. But he's really had it. And he says, this is just this eternally morphing assemblage of locutions that pedants or our kids, God knows our kids, that human resources or the Twitter herd say we shouldn't be using anymore. Terms that are hardly egregious, but, maybe just aren't the best. Look. And he says the list of these supposedly problematic expressions is getting so long almost as if we were actively searching for terms to ban as a kind of sport. Well, you know what? I think that is true. I think there are people just eternally vigilant, out to pounce on someone for saying the wrong thing. And I remember something. Oh no, he's about to land. The parachutes are up. Okay, so I'm remembering. God, this has to be 10 years ago, maybe. And I couldn't get over the unbelievable stupidity of it. And I don't recall exactly who said it, but someone, I think in a governmental position, used the word niggardly, Niggardly, meaning to be, stingy, niggardly. And I don't recall exactly what happened, except I think this person lost their job. Now, here's the thing. It is not in any way derived from the N word. It has a totally different provenance. He used the word correctly. But there's a word now. I don't think I've said it well. I said it just now. I don't think I've said it since, because I saw that, the stupidity of it is how many people probably never heard the word. And I try rolling with the punches here, but he talks about one that gets me too. He says, you see where this gets crazy. The word retarded became absolutely verboten. And so we were told intellectually disabled. And he says, see, that's the kind of euphemistic treadmill that we get on. Because intellectually disabled gives way to something else, because disabled becomes something you can't say. Handicapped, you can't say. Crippled, you can't say. So it becomes what? Differently abled. And each new term gets you into another bit of trouble. He says at one point, at least some developmentally disabled people were described as having special needs. But turns out special is becoming a slur as well. I just don't know. And he says, make no mistake, many expressions we're told to stop using are ones most of us will agree we should ditch. Asian American and Asian were welcome replacements for the tacky, exoticizing Oriental. But he says, I worry when the quest to rid the language of genuinely dismissive terms mission creeps and becomes an excursion that neglects the passage of time and words' tendency to harbor multiple meanings in any language. There are people who say, the term black as an adjective, you can't put it in front of anything without potentially causing offense. Well, guys, you see, we're heading into Crazyville. I mean, it'll make me crazy. But it's good to have McWhorter on my side because he knows what he's talking about. And he's black, which helps, I guess. Jesus. All right, I'm done. I'm sorry I got waylaid about Shatner. He's back. I don't know if he's alive or not, but they're landed. They'll go collect him. And he now becomes the oldest human ever to have been technically in space. Okay? I'll talk at Yins tomorrow. Be good, or kinda.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Thursday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper or its advertisers.